Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased that the subcommittee is marking up the Resilient Networks Act, which, as I mentioned, was introduced with Representative McNerney. With each passing year, we're seeing the increasingly devastating effects of climate change play out in our communities. Hurricanes and wildfires are getting stronger and more severe and are happening more frequently. And these disasters have put our critical infrastructure to the test, and we're learning new and important lessons about where vulnerabilities exist. Having access to networks is essential during disasters, and we saw it firsthand in my district when Superstorm Sandy hit a few years ago. It's critical that when some of our networks go down, our constituents are still able to contact loved ones or call 911 and receive emergency alerts. We have a responsibility to ensure our communications networks are prepared for the worst when disasters strike. That means ensuring communications providers have reasonable backup power solutions integrated into their networks to keep them up and running. But even that is not a guarantee. We know from previous disasters that some provider networks may stay up and running while other networks are out. No matter who your provider is, if one network goes down, a pre-planned agreement between providers can transition subscribers onto a working network, which can be the difference between life and death. So the Resilient Networks Act addresses both of these issues. Information about network outages is also immensely helpful for emergency response efforts, and that's why this bill instructs the FCC to improve how providers submit network information and make the information readily accessible to public safety answering points. The FCC is also required to create a nationwide master point of contact directory with up-to-date information so that communications providers, tower owners and operators, public safety answering points, public safety entities, and utilities are able to communicate and better coordinate response and restoration efforts. And better communications may also reduce the accidental cuts to communication networks that often happen in the recovery phase when companies are working quickly. The bill is future-looking. As wireless providers continue their work to transition their networks to 5G, it's important to understand how 5G networks will operate from a resiliency standpoint. If there are particular strengths or weaknesses in 5G networks when it comes to resiliency in storms or disasters, the FCC should analyze them and consider taking action based on their findings. And finally, the federal government's response to the 2017 hurricane season in Puerto Rico was unacceptable across the board. Our bill requires the GAO to audit the FCC's response to the 2017 hurricane season in Puerto Rico so we can better understand the flaws in their action or perhaps the FCC's inaction. And this is important given the previous requests for an audit of this issue. They were folded into larger reports and therefore no specific review of the FCC's response is being conducted. And there are important lessons to be learned from these events, and I look forward to getting answers from the GAO. And I thank Ranking Member Walden and his staff for working with us through the drafting process. I believe Mr. Walden shares our goals, and I look forward to continuing our conversations on the way to full committee. Since we first introduced this bill, we've worked with stakeholders to flesh out a number of improvements. We are, however, not offering those improvements as amendments today. As Ranking Member Walden and I agree, we're going to work together on a way to full committee to try and reach a bipartisan solution. And while we've collected written comments from stakeholders and affected agencies through the process, from what we've undergone so far, we also plan to have more in-person conversations with stakeholders and agencies so we can just get this right. And again, Mr. Chairman, strengthening communication networks so they operate during and after a disaster is a vitally important concern, and this bill makes those networks stronger, in my opinion, and the public safer. So I would urge support for the bill and yield back.